Okay, we're here at Gatlin Park for the annual ARRL
Field Day.
Field Day.
Correct.
Okay, we got it right.
Yeah.
And you're Jim?
Tim Holt.
Tim Holt.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on here today.
Okay. First and foremost, this is a emergency preparedness event. Amateur radio operators are dedicated to public service, to providing communications when other means fail from remote locations, when the internet is down, when phone service is unavailable, when cell phones are not working. We can put antennas up like we're doing here today for this exercise, and can provide communications for law enforcement, for relief agencies, search and rescue teams, whoever needs that, then we can provide that, or else provide additional communications in case, say, the cell phone network is overloaded. So it's a public service exercise where we do things that we would be prepared to do in an emergency situation like that.
So what kind of emergency situations could we have? A nuclear attack or something like that?
We're in northwest Alabama, lots of tornadoes.
Oh.
Yeah. In 2011, when the tornadoes came through down in the Hackleburg, Phil Campbell area, there were amateur radio operators there. They were providing communications when all the other means were out for some time, until they could get some emergency cell phone towers and things put up. But amateur radio was a help to the people down in that area after those tornadoes that did such a devastating damage to the Phil Campbell Hackleburg area.
So there's a local club, right?
There is, the Muscle Shoals Amateur Radio
Club. Somebody could join up and get involved in this effort.
Absolutely. It's not just public service, it's also a hobby. A lot of folks get into it for the hobby side and get interested in the public service. Some get into it because of their public service interest and see what it is as a hobby. So it can be a lot of things to a lot of different people depending on what your interest is.
So how does someone get involved in the club? What do they do?
We have club meetings on the first Saturday of every month. Right now we're meeting at the Underwood-Petersville Community Center up north of Florence in that Underwood-Petersville area at 9 o'clock. Have the club meeting. We also offer exam testing sessions up there. We'd be glad to help anyone get started. There's lots of material you can study to take the exam. It does require a license. It's not like CB and some other things, but amateur radio does require a license. But the entry-level exam for the technician class license is not very technical. There is certainly some technical information on it, but the biggest part of it is on the rules, safety procedures, and how to operate on the air.
Very good. So is it hard to get these licenses?
Not really. There are, I said, a number of study aids, and a lot of people can take those, and within maybe a month or so, after maybe an hour a day, they can be ready to take the exam and be on the air.
So is there anybody around to help with some of this? I imagine some of it's kind of technical.
Some of it gets that way, and certainly as you get into the upper level of the license classes, it does get much more technical. The technician class, there is some technical stuff in there, but it's not very difficult. And sure, club members will be glad to help somebody to explain through that any parts that they might not understand. And there are some really good aids, study aids, self-study, some manuals, a lot of good YouTube videos where people go through all that material. So there are a number of ways that you can prepare for taking the exam.
So how do we get started? Is there a website or something to go to?
There is a website. We have one at the club. It's msarc.org. That's
okay.
Muscle Shoals Amateur Radio Club.org. You can send an email to info, that's INFO, at msarc.org. And we monitor that email pretty closely. So we'd be glad to talk to anybody that is interested in getting involved in amateur radio.
Okay. You think your guys can do anything about the flies around here? They're driving me crazy.
Sorry, that's that's out of our league. We have the same problem.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And we'll see if we can get some folks to go to that website. What was it again?
msarc.org. org.
You got to make sure you get that org right.
That's correct.
It won't work for com.
Won't work for com, it's .org.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
What that's all about.
I sure will, Mac. I am Matthew Sherrill. My call sign is Alpha 4, Bravo Mike. I've been an amateur radio operator for about 4 years now, and I joined the local club through a friend. But we do have a website, the Muscle Shoals Amateur Radio Club.org. Excuse me, Muscle Shoals Amateur Radio Club of the Shoals.org, and you can go on the website and you can learn a lot more about our club and our officers, and you can also send us emails. You can download a membership application if you'd like to join. But what we do is we get together a couple times a month, and we talk about amateur radio. We plan for events such as our field day we're having now. And if anybody comes to the meeting and they have some issues with their radio, we usually have someone at the site at the club meeting that can help them get past that hurdle and help get them on the air. Sometimes people buy new radios and have no clue as to what to do with the radio. And there are a lot of websites out there, YouTube videos that help you program radios, but having that one-on-one, face-to-face interaction helps them get on the air sooner, and that's great. Today we're having field day here at Gatman Park in Muscle Shoals, and we're set up here near the splash pad in Gatman Park, and behind me is the Colbert County EMA trailer. The Colbert County EMA trailer has radios inside of it, air conditioning, and it's run by a generator, so it can go to any remote site and be a command post for anything that's going on. Right now we've got 2 radios inside the trailer that we're using to contact people all over the world. And field day is basically doing emergency communications with as many people as we can in a 24-hour period of time. So we started at 1 o'clock this afternoon. We'll go all night and through the morning and into 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And it's a contest. There's no trophies or anything that are exchanged for getting the most contacts or talking to the most people. There's not even any awards for talking to someone, say, in Honolulu or Australia. But it's a lot of bragging rights that's great to do that. And it also proves that if the worst day happens and we lose all of our regular communications, that we have emergency communications that we can set up anywhere at any time and be a self-contained unit and communicate with the world.
You got a bunch of antennas set up here. Does
Yes.
it take long to set up the antenna, and what are these things about? Where can they talk to?
Well, we have a fan dipole antenna that's directly over my head, and it's made out of several hundred feet of wire, and we've got it stretched between a couple of trees about 40 feet off the ground. Now it's a stationary antenna, and we hook the feed line or the coax up to the radio, and it works really good because the antenna itself is going east and west. We have real good reception on our north and south borders or directions. Now over my left shoulder we have a beam antenna. Now the beam antenna is actually a directional antenna, and we have a rotator on it that we can actually turn to a specific location. So if we, for example, hear someone in New Jersey talking and they're not real clear, we can actually aim that antenna directly towards that station. Not only do we receive them better, but our transmission is more focused in their direction as well. And that enables us to get a lot of good contacts doing that. So if we were doing a contest where we wanted to work all 50 states, for example, we could point that antenna in those different directions to contact those folks in those specific states. But say if it's an emergency and we need to contact someone in Mobile, Alabama, we can direct that antenna directly towards Mobile and focus our most of our power in that direction. And of course we can receive that signal as well. I think everybody knows or has experienced the old TV antennas where you had to use a rotor or something to turn that antenna to get the best TV reception. Well, we do the same thing with amateur radio. We can direct those beam antennas in that direction. We also have a pair of beam antennas right next to the trailer, one stacked on top of the other. And back in the day, that was usually the way that TV antennas were set up. where you had a UHF and a VHF antenna on the same mast. And you would use a rotor or a rotator to turn that antenna to get it in the right direction.
So how does someone get started? Do they just show up at the club, or?
We'd be glad for you just to show up at the club as a visitor. You can go to the website, msarc.org, and if you want to learn more about the club that way, you could also print an application for membership there. And our dues is $20 a year, but you don't have to be a member to come and visit the club and just to see what we're doing. Matter of fact, we're glad for folks to come out during field day today, and it might whet their appetite. They may decide they'd like to get on the air sometime. We actually have a get on the air station or a go to station over near the splash pad, and people without license will be there with a coach that has a license. They can get on the air and communicate as well.
Is it hard to get your license?
It's not very hard. There's lots and lots of study guides online. Myself, because I was an electrician, I had a lot of electrical training already, Ohm's law and things like that, and there are a few questions about that, but the online aids are there, and they're free, and you can study up and be able to pass the test in probably 30 days if you just study an hour a day. The technician license doesn't require you to have Morse code. Matter of fact, none of the classes of license require Morse code anymore. So now the advanced extra, they call it advanced extra because it does take a lot of extra training. But in between the advanced extra and the technician, there's a general class license, and it's very similar to the technician. A license, you just have to learn a little bit more about different frequencies and different rules of the road, so to speak, while operating amateur radios.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for what you do. I'm sure there will be a day someday in the near future that we'll be calling on you guys to help us when communication dies and everything else.
Well, let's pray that doesn't happen, but if it does, we like to think that we're prepared to help the community, because that's what we're about, is helping the community.